Hey everyone, this is Mahira, aka MC Aquila. I am the co-writer of the Winter's Blight YA fantasy series, which is about a changeling fairy girl who discovers she has magical powers in the middle of a neo-London that is very anti-fairy. And I am also the creator of the Triforce of Power fan comic, which is a Zelda fan comic, and then Moonblast, which is a Pokemon fan comic. Links down below. So today is the second part of the series called The Wall of Shame, in which I talk about projects that I devoted a decent amount of my life to and that didn't go anywhere. Oh boy. So this one's very special because this was my NaNoWriMo project in 2021. NaNoWriMo is short for National Novel Writing Month. It's in which everyone who's participating tries to write, I think it's 50,000 words. Either that or 60,000. I'm pretty sure it's 50,000. And that is your goal. The idea was originally to write a full draft of a new novel or part of a full draft of a new novel, but it's expanded. Like you can do screenplay writing, you can do nonfiction, I think. All that stuff. And it is a pretty great challenge, and I was really excited to do it again. I did beat it, yay! As I was writing the script for the concept we'll be looking at today. And because I thought it was going to be a comic of some kind. At first I was thinking it would be like a comic with like text, so like partial text, partial pictures, so I didn't spend tons and tons of time drawing it. But that did not work out. So I was going to do a full comic, so I was like, well, I'll just script the comic in with NaNoWriMo. And that was fun. I enjoy scripting, and I spent a lot of time on it. And previously I had figured out like the outline and the characters and things like that. But shortly after NaNoWriMo ended, and actually during NaNoWriMo, I think, I got to a point where I was like, this isn't working anymore. I did ultimately write 50,000 words, though actually on retrospect I think I cheated, because a certain amount of those 50,000 words, I think up to like maybe 30,000 words, were like, that was the script. But after I hit this certain point in the script, I was like, the plot doesn't make sense anymore, so I had to go and focus on working on like outline and brainstorming, and oh my gosh, like I figured it out. I did solve the problems, but I'm still not working on this story right now. So let's get into it. So this story started because I basically wanted to do how to put it, I guess an urban fantasy story with like an emphasis on, all the fun things, vampires, werewolves, ghosts, etc. But like not in like a romance way, which I know a lot of people like would be like, well, I'm never reading that, because romance is a big part of most urban fantasy. But I just wanted to have like these weird urban fantasy kid characters going to school and getting into trouble and having fun and maybe uncovering cult activity, all that normal high school stuff. So the way I started to formulate things was using a doll maker. This is from a Doll Divine. I don't see her the Doll Divine tag on here, but I do see the artist's tag. I'm guessing that's an Instagram thing. So, all credit goes to Doll Divine and the artist and all that. But yeah, so this was my first concept for a vampire gal. I knew I wanted a pink vampire gal, the pink-haired vampire girl, and it just sounded really cute. And my idea with her was, she comes from a poorer, like not super poor, but just not rich family. So she can't buy new goth clothes. She wants to be a goth, but she can't buy them, so she has to stick with like what she's hand-me-downs from her relatives. So that's why she's wearing like this blue polka dot dress instead of like a pure black dress, because this was the darkest dress that she could find. She does have some, black stuff for the other stuff she's wearing, so I guess she's pulling it off pretty well. So yeah, I really like this design. I wanted her to have freckles, because like a vampire with pink hair and freckles was just so ridiculous. I was like, yes, I gotta do it. Oh yeah, these vampires do not dry up in the sun. They are, honestly, they are more akin to like vampire bat shifters, sort of. They don't turn into full bats. Anyways, yeah. So, this character concept was, I wanted lake monsters, that's right. Yeah, so everybody has vampires and werewolves, but what about the lake monsters and the swamp monsters? Like, they need to be included too. Plus the idea of it's basically like the Monster Girl thing, where you have like a cute schoolgirl who can turn into a giant lake monster who can chomp your head off. I was like, I want that. So I was like, well, what would be even better than her being a cute girl who can turn into a giant monster? I was like, well, maybe she's like a total prep. Because that makes total sense. Yeah, I like this. It works well. I like her preppy. Maybe it's not a preppy style anymore, but her hairstyle looks kind of preppy to me. Yeah. So, I think this character's name, I think her name was Linder, because Linda is the more common name, but I always kind of like the name Linder. I heard it in one story once, where it was like kind of like a joke name, I think. And then I realized that if you say Linda with like a Boston accent, I think you say like Linder, you say it like that. And I was like, well, what if like her parents thought that the pronunciation of Linda as Linder was like cute, so they intentionally named her Linder. So now everybody who is introduced to her thinks that whoever is introducing her just is talking with an accent. Her name's actually Linder. And I was like, oh, that would be like a fun little pet peeve that she could have. Yeah, things tend to get goofy whenever I'm in character creation stage. I enjoyed that. So I actually really like this character design in itself. I was trying to figure out who the MC would be, and initially I was like, well, what if she was kind of like a peppy little witch kind of character? I wasn't really sure if I wanted to have witches. And I thought it'd be kind of cute if she was if she could use magic, but she was also just adorable. And maybe from as I was envisioning this story as taking place up north, I was like, well, maybe she could be from the south to have a little bit of fun culture clash. Not culture clash, what's the word? Fiddlesticks. You know the word. Anyways, so that's actually something that stayed, because even though I changed the main character eventually into another guy, he was still from what was kind of Charleston, South Carolina, and the rest of the story was taking place up in the Pennsylvania, Ohio area, Northwest Virginia area. So yeah, that kind of stuck, even though this character disappeared. So what I first worked with was well, maybe she has a twin. So the story is about two teenagers who are coming to this town. And then I realized I should just mesh them together and just have one character. So this character wound up being merged with the pink-haired vampire gal, because this character's main thing was that she was really interested in the supernatural and all that, and in ghosts. And the pink-haired gal began to be into that as well. So I began to flesh out the cast, began to come up with some ideas for vampires, for a half vampire, for werewolves, and for other supernatural beings. And yeah, and one of the things I was looking forward to the most was that the werewolves were going to be the preppy kids, the rich kids, and the vampires were going to be the hillbillies. I loved it. I wanted it so bad. And I have personal experience with this. One side of my family's from West Virginia. And so I was really looking forward to integrating, things that, I had experienced and had grown up with. And also just the way that people in the mountain areas talk is just so much fun. I was, just the different expressions and accents and things like that. I was like, I really want to try to include some of this. I did research as well, did extra research for that, and I was really looking forward to learning more and doing more and having fun with it. So I was really, really excited about this come the start of NaNoWriMo, and I had formulated a really solid outline after working on this for quite a while, because I made these, let me see when I made these doll maker thingamajigs. I made these near the end of September, so that means that I was working on the story all throughout October leading up to November. So I was working on these for this story for 2 months straight. Yeah, so it was fun. I had a lot of fun working on it, and I really, really enjoyed the characters and the world, and there were a lot of things that I really loved about it, and I was really looking forward to drawing it or writing it. And I liked my main cast. They felt a little bit like there were too many characters, maybe, but I also I love it whenever these stories have a nice little range in the cast, and it's fun. And plus it's fun whenever you have a story that has a variety of different species, to have those species represented, having at least one member in your main cast, just because it's fun, because if somebody really likes one of the species, they can spend a lot of time with them in the main cast, and at least one of the characters in the main cast. So, yeah. So one of the things I did to prepare, oh my gosh, for the NaNoWriMo story was this little collection of comics. So I'm gonna just read them and hope that I can set the comics up on the video right. The only way to summon this ghost bus is if one of us can be excessively negative at the drop of a hat. My time has come. So this is basically when I was figuring out what kind of goth she was. She's secretly not a sad girl, but she basically... Oh, right, at this point she had a lot of tension with her family. That's right, because they didn't want her to be a goth. They thought that she was basically wasting her time, because there was a lot of other more practical ways she could be spending her time and energy, as opposed to trying to make a name for herself as a goth icon on the interwebs. And yeah, that was like a little bit of a character arc for her with her family, was them coming to accept that, just because it's not earning her too much money, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's a waste of time. And yeah, I loved her black lipstick. Oh yes, check out these pictures I took of the ghost last night from my Twit space. They're the best I've ever taken. Nothing. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, you're not going to be internet famous for that. I do like how they look. This isn't good. The rest of this isn't good. They look good, the rest of this isn't good. Because I was thinking, it'll be a running gag that this character, I think his name was Heron, he wants to find ghosts, and he finds them, and he is constantly in danger by them, but he's really bad at capturing any evidence of it, even though he, runs into them with absurd levels of frequency. So yeah, but the joke of him being terrible at capturing footage and all that obviously would wear pretty thin pretty quickly. And at this point, I wasn't really thinking of that. Whenever I started writing, I was like, this is a problem, but I didn't know how to fix it. Yeah, because if people believed him, that would change quite a few things. Oh, right, so he is with the art club gal. You want to join our art club? What do you think art club's about? Drawing pretty pictures? Yes? No, it's about the finality of death. Ah, shoot. So, okay, so this was another early iteration. I was trying to do way too much in this story. There was going to be, basically non-humans in this town hate humans, and they had a good reason to, because of the history of the town. Oh, I forgot about that. I formed out the whole history of this town back to olden times. It was a lot of time, y'all. A lot of time spent on this. And I do still like the town's history, I'll say that. But it did create this whole thing where he was the odd one out as the human. But that also put him just at this intense disadvantage where he's being picked on by these vampires and werewolves and lake monsters like this gal here. And she wasn't that mean to him. She was just kind of intense. But it just got, okay, I guess this is kind of similar to the one story that I was trying to do for Kindle Vella that I mentioned in the other video, where there was just too much racked up against this character. And it's like, how did he not die? Yeah, because he doesn't make friends very quickly either. He makes friends with the pink-haired vampire gal. Her name's Belinda. Yeah. He makes friends with Belinda, but she's not, that takes a little while too, and she's not particularly well respected, so people aren't going to stop picking on him and because of her. So yeah. So the art club thing was all about like him trying to find a place in the school, and I think the school had a requirement where you had to join a club or something like that, so he's like, I gotta get in here. Oh, and it was all about like, I don't want to sit alone at lunch. If I join the art club, I can sit with them. Which is one of the most high school problems, but I feel like we've all been there, so I was like, I still kind of like that as like a point to show his progression in like the society of the school. I think that's fine, but yeah. Oh yeah, I had this idea where the vampires would sleep either hanging upside down, like bats, or they would sleep in their beds. They could do either, and like it's healthy for them to do both. So it was just kind of goofy. It was really goofy. I mean, I gave her the slippers with like eyeballs on them. Yeah, because I think I was gonna give her bunny slippers, and I'm like, she's a goth, she wouldn't wear bunny slippers unless they were like, I don't know, like, Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's or something. But that doesn't exist in this universe, sadly. But anyways, yeah, I still like this idea of like this cute little girl sleeping like a weird bat. Oh, right. So next is the lake monster gal, who is just an overachiever, and her rival, who she doesn't acknowledge, what's his name? I love this character. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Florence. Yes, Florence. That's right. Yeah, so he wants to be the very best, like no one ever was, and she is better than him. So yeah, I mean, oh, Florence. Yes, I love. So the rest of this gets more Florence heavy because I love him. So, so the idea was that he has a troubled past, so he goes to therapy. So he gets like follow-up texts. So it's like follow-up from today's therapy session. Homework: don't get your human classmate, because he hates humans, expelled or killed. No one understands me. So, okay, this probably is not funny to you, but like, everything Florence does is incredibly amusing to me. He's just over dramatic, and it just so intense, and just like really, he can be scarily efficient, but like not whenever he really wants to be. Like, I love him. So this next one was, oh, right. So that was another idea that I developed where like there were haunted zones, and like basically the rules of reality and magic would change there because like, the vampires and lake monsters would have some kind of magic. So yeah, so like phones don't normally work in this haunted zone, so you can't take your stupid photos. I came prepared. And those are supposed to be disposable cameras. Where did you even buy those in this day and age? Good question. Yeah, so that was one thing that I never could quite figure out with Heron what his deal was, which was a huge problem because A, I liked him, and B, he's supposed to be the main character, and C, he is very important in regards to some big things in regards to like the overall plot, and the story would be very different without him. So like, he's a necessary character, but what his motives were just, I mean, it's fine that like, oh, he's interested in pursuing the supernatural. There's nothing wrong with that. But he's facing life and death, and, he's going through all this terrible stuff. So, like, he needs something stronger than, like, this is my favorite hobby. That's not enough. And it's not interesting. I mean, if it was just like a gag comic, then yeah, maybe it could be okay. But like, I wasn't seeing this as a purely gag comic, you know? Oh, right. So we have the vampire and werewolf animosity. The werewolf is shouting, "You creepy vampire, I bet you were responsible for that monster we just killed." Oh yeah, that's Florence he's shouting at. And Heron's like, "Oh, come on." And the werewolf's like, "He was watching us this whole time. I love the werewolf's Draco Malfoy hairdo." Anyways, Heron's like, "But he's not a real competent threat to anyone." Florence is like, "Yeah, you're a jerk." Yeah, so Florence was bullying Heron this whole time, so like, Heron being a jerk is justified. That was one thing I was having fun trying to figure out, and I never fully did, but I wanted to figure out, like, Heron just being, like, a really nice guy and just a sweetie, but, like, also secretly vicious, in, like, a nice way, but not, you know, entirely. Just secretly very sass, you know? Yeah. Anyways, so the next is, oh, right. So, Florence is an idiot. So whenever he starts to not hate somebody but who he wants to hate, he doesn't know how to handle it. So like, he does not let Heron get eaten by a vampire girl, and he's just denying it, saying he was trying to get him killed. And Heron, I don't know if Heron was supposed to be catching on to him being an idiot at this point. I mean, he knows he's an idiot, but he didn't know he was like this type of idiot where like, I don't know how to do friendship. I need to watch My Little Pony's Magic or something. I mean, honestly, he could probably benefit from that. Yeah. So, yeah, Florence is just like tightly wound all the time. Maybe that's what I loved about him. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Okay, so then, oh right, so there was this idea where like, there were different types of haunted zones, and there were these supernatural monsters in the haunted zones, and there were zones that were cursed, and if you touched them, you'd be consumed by this thing that lives in these haunted zones. So there was like this extra little mystery there. Oh, Heron's hair, look at his hair in the second panel. Ugh. Well, these are not final. These were obviously not final. These are not the final inks planned. So yeah, so he's trying to cheer up Belinda by being like, "You're going in this crazy place alone, but it's okay. It's a learning opportunity." She's like, "That endless optimism of yours is going to get you beat up one of these days." True. So true. And, that was another thing that, like, I was kind of unsure with Heron, was like, I was like, is he an optimist, or is this like a case of toxic positivity? Because I was getting those vibes from like his father, who lives in this little village. Well, it's not a little village, but who lives in this town, who he basically would not be very good with children or teenagers, and so he would tend to foster kind of toxic positivity. And that, honestly, I kind of enjoyed trying to sort that out because it was interesting from like a character behavior standpoint, and it could be used really easily as a part of like a character arc. I just never really quite figured it out. So I think the relationship between Heron and his father also changed some. Alright, and the last one was, oh right, so originally I thought that Heron would be working at Belinda's family's store. That changed whenever I realized that I didn't want his relationship with her family to be like a big part of the story, because I like her family a lot. They would obviously be at least partially based off of my own family, that side of my family, who's from West Virginia. And yeah, so here they're tricking him to go on a snipe hunt, that dumb little city boy. Yeah, one of my uncles tried to trick me to go on a snipe hunt, and my sister and I almost fell for it. We didn't know, we remembered what it was in time, and he was like, "Oh no, you guys are wrong. No, snipes are real." And we're like, "No, they're not." We were really young, so we were easy prey, or so he thought. Yeah, so there's still a lot of things. I have a lot of fond memories about this story, and I love Florence, but he's having someone who is really tightly wound, who has some dark secrets, and who has a father who is a old school vampire and is a half vampire and is starting to maybe form the first friendship in his life, but doesn't understand what friendship is. Oh my gosh, this sounds like a My Little Pony episode. I mean, I have to be perfectly honest, there was one point where I was like, wow, he's a lot like Discord, and I was like, I love it. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this story had too much. I think I mentioned that on the other video where I was like, there was a lot going on. I think it was the Zodiac story in particular, where it was just a lot going on, and it was just too much. It was too much. And I think that is a very common problem because, for me in particular, because whenever you already have too many characters, too much material, too many plots, too many arcs, etc., it makes it even harder to like fix the problems that arise with all those characters and arcs and plot events and etc. And there's still, again, a lot of things I like, but yeah, it's just kind of, I already knew that having ideas that were too big was a problem for me. But I wrote 50,000 words on this in November. And like, I'm not trying to complain. It's just kind of a bummer. That's why it's a wall of shame material. It is shameful that I was not able to put all this to good use. Aside from like learning some lessons about, story planning and character creation, as well as like, it was good to be able to get back into writing and NaNoWriMo with that, even if I kind of cheated, I guess. I mean, I still wrote the words, so whatevs. So yeah. Have you ever worked on a nano project or something else for a challenge only to realize later on that it's just not working, or maybe there's just too much, and maybe there is a story in here that you might write someday, but it's just not going to happen right now, especially not with this current iteration? So yeah, comment down below. And if there's any real takeaway that I have from this, it's that I just really need to write a character who is like Florence, just a creepy, tightly wound, dummy dumb, because I like him too much for a character that never really got anywhere and that didn't even get that much, screen time in the parts that I wrote for NaNoWriMo. Those were my favorite parts to write. I really enjoyed him, writing him. I remember that there was one time during or after Nano where I was like, well, what if I cut things down so the other characters have less time and I focus more on like making this a buddy comedy with Heron and Florence. The problem with that is they're too different at first. There's not enough for them to overlap. I would have to come up with something that would like force them to spend time together, and them being roommates in school can't work because there's too many ways for them to get around that. Unless if like even if the school is really strict about it, Florence would find a way. He's too persistent. Yeah. I like that about him, but it makes him hard to work with. So maybe someday there'll be something there. And I still like the idea of working with a half vampire, which is what Florence is, and him having his own little minions. I really like that. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna stop here because I could talk on about Florence forever, even though there's not tons to talk about. There is some stuff to talk about, but it's I'm gonna keep it to the best, just beneath. You know what I mean? Not share it in case I do work with him someday and it becomes a spoiler. Let's just say he had some very dark secrets and was doing evil things. But it just makes him more fun. Okay. Alright. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.